Hi there, everyone. It is another scorcher, I think they like to call these. It's hot out here. And I've been trying to keep up with everything and generally doing okay at that. But this morning I was watching some information on Comfrey and thinking about how I'd really like to get some information on alternatives that are not invasives for Comfrey. And so I did what we often do in this day and age, which is turn to the internet and ask, hey, does anybody use anything else for the same permaculture purposes that Comfrey is commonly used for? Which are what? Let's see. Noticed I've pulled off quite a lot of the greenery off the top of these, and that is because it collects nutrients and you can set it down on top of the soil, and then as the rain goes through, it'll put those nutrients in the soil. It does suppress weeds pretty well, and there's some things I could do to improve upon that, mainly just like squishing them down and letting them regrow so that there's more plant material here at one time, and then only harvesting the squished down part. And there's other things that could be done as far as it does help your compost get started. But there's a lot of things you can use for that, such as animal manure and stuff like that. So I tried to ask the question of, like, what kinds of things might be alternatives that would actually be native plants. So there are things like this. The weed suppression is really good from Comfrey, and it would be from this very taking over plant that's a native. That's goldenrod. Goldenrod has allelopathic properties, but they don't stick around once you cut it down. So I could let this whole section be taken over by goldenrod. I could do that, and it might suppress most of the weeds. It seems to be doing a decent job of that right here. That's my test plot for that. I don't think it would be as thorough of a mulch, though, mainly because it's so much thinner, and this is so much wider. I do keep the Comfrey contained because I've noticed that although it doesn't seed at all, it tends to want to spread by roots a lot of times. So that's fine. It's not too invasive of a thing, but it would just be so nice to have something that was a native plant that could operate at least some of those features that Comfrey's typically used for. I've really been thinking about doing a rhizome barrier in addition to the fence. We'll go past the bike shop here. In addition to the fence down along the back here, because I have so many of the neighbors' grasses that are always trying to spread up into my garden, and the wood chips helped a lot, but having something tall along here to also then block all the seed heads, because they also really don't strim or anything. We could certainly stand to talk about extending these wood chips into that spot between, because I think it's just too much for them to take care of. But that just means more and more is for me to take care of, so I don't know. Yeah, so I'm looking at these options and thinking, like, you know, there's so much more life we just watched. That's a lightning bug, I think. And we just saw I think it fell the whole way down. There's a weird fly there that I think is native, and there was another milkweed bug here. They're curled because a bunch of aphids had a snack, but now the aphids are amazingly gone. That's impressive. The thing fought them off. There's another lightning bug. So, like milkweed, you get a lot more life per square inch of plant. Maximilian sunflower suppresses grass growth, so I could plant that back there. And I don't know how many more purposes it would serve. The plants here, these tend to suppress weeds, the native violets. I've been looking into nitrogen fixers, such as this is false blue indigo. But I just think it's strange how much information is out there about one particular plant and how much it's being encouraged to be planted everywhere. And I would like people's ideas. So I went and asked, and I got a whole lot of blowback today for trying to ask for alternatives to Comfrey that were native on native plant forums. And I'm wondering if people are just getting like strangely purist or what the heck happened, but I got 2 of my posts deleted. And I don't know how to insert a photo, so I'll just have to describe it. I did use an Edible Acres link, but in all caps, I said I'm looking for native alternatives that serve these purposes. I got 2 deleted. 1 got really good response, but I should probably capture those responses just in case, because then somebody else came down and started complaining about me asking for alternatives. Like, I don't know what's wrong with this. I'm a little bit frustrated at this point. So, fascinated by that cultural phenomenon within the native plant community, that there seems to be a desire to have people ask just the exact right question or not ask at all. And there seems to be an assumption that people are out to hurt the native plant community. And I don't think that's the case. Just because I'm trying to specify usefulness of plants so that I can help people understand why you might want to plant natives, why you might not want to consider them weeds. And supporting the bugs and stuff isn't the only reason. Because not everybody actually likes bugs, it turns out. I don't know. I think they're cool. So, I don't know. Probably could have worded it differently. Probably could have found a different link, but I got frustrated with all the scolding and also with my stuff just not even getting read. It might be that the movement's gaining so much ground that it's overwhelming the people who are trying to oversee the care of the conversations. Because PA Native Plant Society on Facebook is like 15K worth of people at this point, and the admins are probably losing their dang minds. Kind of looks that way. And then there's PA Native Plant Gardening. And it's really great that those groups are getting that big, but I think it's really strange how they're changing as they do. So I'm hoping that there will be more safe places to ask what people might consider stupid questions, or to word them in the way that you're actually thinking them and not get deleted for it. Because I don't see anything wrong with wanting to know alternative choices. Yeah. There's our native endangered and rusty patch bumblebee, and some ants, and several milkweed beetles. But I still don't think there's another milkweed beetle right there. Still don't think I've seen any monarch caterpillars this year just yet. I'm hoping we'll see them soon. They stand out because they don't bother to hide. So if they're around, we'll probably see them right away. Yeah. This is a native with some crazy freaking bug inside. Oh, that's one of the not awful shield bugs. It's still a stink bug, but it's one of the ones that's actually from here. Some ants. Yeah, so I'd say I have a mix. Might even be getting to be, I'm hoping to get at least 50-50 of natives. And the other 50 being more traditional food plants that are already here. I don't plan to expand the traditional food plants too much more beyond what I already have. Yeah. This Monarda. A lot of times Monarda ends up drawing hummingbirds. It's our wild bergamot, wild Monarda. Beautiful day, starting to cool down a little bit. I think this breeze feels nice. I have to soak the feet of a bunch of birds. Apparently it is milkweed beetle mating season. Big suckers. I don't know if they bite or anything. I don't think they do. They sure are bright red. Still don't see any signs of the... Yeah. This isn't native. This is just... And it can get a little invasive. It's very delicious, though. I really like eating it. Same thing with the common sage here. It reseeds from its seed heads here pretty much every year, and so I end up with a bunch of them. Catnip, too. They're not from here. I need to figure out how to propagate the... This is such a great variety of rhubarb. I would love to learn how to turn these rhubarb into more rhubarbs again, because the only time I ended up with it dividing itself was because of crown rot. And that's when I ended up with like 12, but only 6 lived because of freeze thaw and the time of year that it happened. And this one's about to bloom. These, the pollinators love the Joe Pye. Great little plant. Little nothing. It gets like 10 feet tall, 10 to 12 foot tall, but really great plant. This plant is one of the only plants that our native praying mantis will eat. And the ones that are federally protected are actually an invasive species, so our native praying mantis is really struggling, partly due to the lack of that plant being available for them to eat. So I'm really hoping to get more of those. But then there's stuff like this, which is my parsnips going to seed, covered in ladybugs. And the walking onions, those aren't native. And neither is the apple tree. So it's a balance. There's all kinds of different things here. Yeah. Gotta get... I have a lot of transplanting to do. So I'm gonna capture the text of some of the suggestions I did get as far as different plants that can serve the same uses as the comfrey. And from there, maybe we can have a conversation if you can think of anything else native, because having massive rows of comfrey when I could be planting something native and using it similarly. Maybe it's the fact that in order to use the comfrey the way we do, you have to tear it down to the ground. Maybe that's what made it so difficult for people to interact with it as a question. I just ate another pea, sorry, I can't resist someone out here. But yeah. That's amidst the native grape taking over this area again, and I have to cut it back. They have pretty little flowers, just not right now. Or maybe they're just buried. Nah, the answer is just not right now, because those are all spent flower heads. But it grows back 3 to 4 times a year, and you just chop it and put it somewhere else. I've been doing a lot of my mulching with a different invasive I've got going on, though. Sweet pea everlasting. Ugh. It is a plant named Ugg. Just throw it down underneath the elderberry. The elderberry's a native plant, too. Yeah. If you've got any more ideas, and, if you need some suggestions as to some other plants that could be used as such, feel free to comment down below, and I don't know, I'm going to keep this plot of comfrey most likely. I've had this comfrey plant since '99. Transplanted it here from my dad's house when I moved in. I don't think it's going anywhere, but I did learn from his house that it spreads and it will take over, half the yard. Well, it'll take over like a 6 to 8 foot run enough years later. A couple of native ash trees that I cut the whole way down every year, or every other year depending, but they sure add a lot of privacy right here. That's this plant right here, that's a native ash tree. There's 2 different varieties in this row that just, they happened, and I decided to let them happen.